Alright, I am back with another Destiny 2 video, and I wanted to go into a little bit about the controversial things that have been happening over the past 24 hours with this new hotfix that went live. I think it's only really worth talking about one of these two things. The Lorelei nerf is like, everybody thinks that Lorelei should be nerfed, more or less. The nerf is not that crazy, going down to ×1 restoration from ×2. Not too big of a deal. I think the one thing they have to do now is change the item description. Lorelei was stupid. I mean, it was just ridiculous for both PvP and PvE, especially PvE. Like, you could just literally not die at all in some circumstances. Like, you could just stand there constantly regenerating wells from enemies mobbing you. It was one of the goofiest things I've ever seen. That nerf was warranted. It seems like maybe they should have been communicated ahead of time and it should have been in the original patch notes, but whatever. The more pressing topic here, I guess, is the PvP quitter penalty. So 2 weeks ago, Bungie said that one of the biggest problems, the most concerning problems they were seeing was the amount of people that were quitting out of Quickplay matches now that SBMM was being used in those modes. And that percentage had gone up, I don't, it didn't seem like that much, but it was enough to make them concerned. And they said, we will be implementing quitter penalties in the future. We will have more to say about this in a future TWAB. That was 2 weeks ago. We've heard nothing about it since until yesterday when those quitter penalties suddenly just went live. And I am not convinced this isn't an accident. Like, even though they said they were going to do it, I don't know if they were supposed to have gone live now. By the time you're watching this video, maybe they've clarified, but that's one thing. They haven't clarified. When the Lorelei nerf was discovered, they're like, oh yeah, that was supposed to be in patch notes. Like, DMG literally replied to me and said it was supposed to be in patch notes. I have not heard anything from anyone at Bungie about whether or not this quitter penalty was supposed to have gone live. It was not in the patch notes. It was never discussed after the TWAB again. And the screen you get is literally just the competitive screen. It's like, you've left a competitive match, don't do that, and then you will get suspended. So that to me screams like placeholder. Like, they couldn't even change the wording for a quick play leaving screen. Like, and everyone's like highlighting that, saying it's, this isn't a competitive playlist. Like, how dare you? And like, I don't think this was supposed to have gone live yesterday. That said, it is something they said they were going to do. So the core issue of whether or not it's happening is still, kind of the central debate here, whether there should be quitter penalties. I'm of a few minds here in terms of how I feel about quitter penalties. First of all, like, this needed, I think, a little more discussion than what we got with the surprise, implementation. I think it's you need a lot of context here. I don't have a ton of sympathy for people that are just getting into a quick play match, seeing that it's disjunction or some map they hate, and then leaving immediately. I don't love that. I do agree that, yes, Bungie should stop weighting a certain subset of maps as strongly as they do, and I think that is a core problem that they need to fix. That said, I don't know if it's like a great idea to make what is probably going to be a bad match even worse for the rest of the players who aren't immediately quitting out of a match by quitting yourself. I know that some players will also just quit if they see a game is not going their way, whether they lose the first round of kills and suddenly they're down 12-1. They're like, all right, well, this game's going to suck and probably kill my KDA and I'm going to get out of here. That also happens. Don't really have a lot of patience for that either. Like, I have stayed in plenty of matches where I have just been absolutely rocked and I end up like a 0.29 or something at the end just because, like, it was a bad game, had a bad game, faced a bad team, or faced a good team. And like, this, to a certain extent, like, this is just part of the game. Like, I don't think the idea of like, you can just leave until you get the map you want, until you get a team you want, is like, I don't think that's really a good way to play. And I think you're sabotaging a lot of other people who don't play that way if you're just quitting out of every other match. So I do think there should be something here. And then, of course, I do believe there are situations when quitting is warranted. If you are already on a team that is down, to 2 or 3 players, and one of the issues was like, when people were quitting, they weren't backfilling for a while, so it would be these absurd like 6v2, 6v3, 6v4 games that were like pointless. So in that case, sure, I get it. Also, in the case of bad connections, one thing SBMM has done is connections have not been super great for many. I think the higher skill you go, the worse connections seem to be for a lot of players. So if you were just getting a match where connections are terrible like that, if you want to quit that, okay, that's a little more understandable to me. Also, there are people just with unstable internet, and I know people are getting kicked out of games sometimes and then getting suspended, even though it wasn't their fault. This has kind of always been an issue, and so that is, another reason why like these, these pretty quick suspensions are not it. I don't, even as annoyed as I am by like just a bunch of people leaving because they don't like the map or they're, lost their first 2 kills or something. I still don't know if like this is the move. The way they're doing this here, like they just had what I would consider a pretty solid PvP win with Eruption. I think most dedicated PvP players seem to enjoy Eruption. I know it was kind of dunking on lower skilled players, but even as a lower skilled player, I still enjoyed it. And I thought it was a good mode. I thought they did a good thing with that. But, this doesn't really seem like the time to further antagonize PvP players. And, like, most dedicated PvP players are, like, pretty upset about this. And I get it. Like, I just feel like so much stuff has been stacked on top of PvP that this just seems like one more thing. Like, Bungie, like, what are you doing? Like, come on. Like, what, like... Granted, that may be an outsized kind of vocal, majority online because like I'm following a bunch of PvP content creators and stuff like that. So, it is biased in their direction. I do think this kind of kills the narrative that Bungie just does things to placate streamers because streamers hate this because a lot of big name streamers will leave if like disjunction comes up or something like that. And it's nobody really seems to like this who is a dedicated PvP player. And for casuals who do kind of get screwed over by people leaving teams, I don't know if they care enough or notice enough. So long as stuff's getting backfilled, I don't know if this is a big enough issue to put in, such rigid leaver penalties in Quickplay. So what's the solution? I mean, maybe there are leaver penalties, but like they're a little more lenient than maybe we've seen so far. But like if you are leaving like 50% of your games or something just because you don't like the map, just because... you're not getting kills or whatever. Yeah, okay, I'm okay with some temporary timeouts for those people. If that is happening because of your connection, well, that's, another thing. And like, I don't even know why you're playing PvP at all if your connection is so bad you can't even play half the games. Like, that is a little more understandable again, but I don't know if that issue is as prevalent as people are making it out to be. And I do think a lot of this is like people leaving because of the map or because they're on a bad team or something. I think there are issues that need to be solved that can help mitigate that. I think they got to stop with the map waiting. I think they need to balance teams better. They said they were going to do more like group size weighted team balancing in the future, so that might alleviate some problems of getting like stopped by a 6-stack in quick play. But I also am not like fully on board with like every time you get into a map you don't want or facing a team that is hard, you just quit and then you should never face any repercussions for that for any reason. So like it's a spectrum and it includes, valid reasons to leave a game and also less valid ones, and then also a bunch of problems in the interim here that Bungie also needs to fix. And I don't know if the solution is going straight to this kind of rigid quitter penalty, which is what we're seeing here. So those are my thoughts on quitting penalties. I don't necessarily expect them to be super popular because I don't know, there's multiple sides to this where you say one thing, you'll upset the other side, and I mean that's like everything, but especially this, it seems. So let me know what your own thoughts are in the comments about this, and we will see if Bungie says anything about what's going on here, like if this was on purpose, if they were going to turn it off for now and rethink it, or what's going on here, because we have not really gotten any official word from them at the time I'm recording this. So anyway, thanks for watching, and I will talk to you soon. Take care.